Welcome to Life Between the Young Guy. I'm your host, Sid White, and this is the podcast where we discuss relations, mental health, finance, and other modern issues young individuals are impacted by. Enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Life Between the Young Guy. Thank you for tuning in. I'm very happy that you guys decided to listen to me today. That I decided to share my thoughts. But obviously, of course, as you read by the title, difference between your work and your job, or difference between your job and your work. Either way, that's what I decided to name this episode. So I just want to get a little brief summary before I get too deep into the topic. So obviously, as you know, we live in a society where we have to work in order to make a living, or at least most of us do, whether that's working two jobs to support your family or working overtime or doing night shifts, things of that nature. Regardless, we are all working some way, somehow to earn a reasonable income, or at least attempt to. With that being said, there are a lot of people working jobs that they hate, or jobs that are bare minimum, paying minimum wage, things of that nature. I can get deeper into that, but that's not our focus for today. The focus is, as you're about to title, of course, your job and your passion, or your quote unquote work. And I want to, break those definitions down before I get into the nitty and gritty, or at least my interpretation of what those two mean, right? So let's just start off with the job. Job is, like I said earlier, is to do what, pay the bills, and you try to bring value to that organization in exchange for a payment. I mean, that's pretty much it. You clock in, you do your job, you clock out, the cycle continues and continues until you retire or you die, right? And I know that sounds pretty depressing, and it is, right? We're kind of living in a slavery mindset, right? But you're just getting paid the bare minimum just to keep you on board, right? And that's a lot of jobs, right? But the work or your passion is ideally is you have a meaningful impact to it, or you love it, or it feels like a real significant difference that you're contributing to that job. You don't feel like that, oh man, I have to do this. No, you want to do it because it's what you feel comfortable doing. It's like a hobby in a sense, right? So that's what I think two main differences of a job and your work. Job, you do it because you have to, because you need to support yourself or others. And you have your work where you have impact and you feel joy, doing it. So let's dive back in of why we don't like our jobs in a sense, not necessarily but why we just tolerate them. And one, I feel like without it, none of us want to be homeless. That's not the goal in life, is to be homeless. We want to be successful, right? And we'll do whatever it takes to become successful. But we got to realize while we're working these jobs that we kind of don't like, we have to remember to not get too comfortable. And what I mean by that is, you just get in that mojo or that clockwork, or, you get up, you go to work, go to bed, and the cycle continues, and you forget why you have a job in the first place, or what your goal is in the first place. And that kind of derives you from actually wanting to find your work, because, you're too lazy. I want to say lazy, but you're too tired, right, to focus on your own goals because of work. And then you tell yourself you're going to do it tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and it never happens. So, and a lot of people face that, including myself, right? I have a job. I don't hate it, right? Because if I hated it, obviously I wouldn't be working there. But it's also not my dream job, right? It's giving me skill sets that could definitely be beneficial, 10, 15 years from now, but it's not the main goal, right? So we just don't want to get in that cycle of forgetting our goal while we're working this job. Kind of use that as drive to, like, okay, I'm not liking what I'm doing. It's not taking me where I'm going. What can I do next? And sometimes we have to take those risks, right? And sometimes you may just have to quit that job, and just take that risk. Because don't get me wrong, it is hard to find a job in today's economy. Trust me, I know. It took me 6 months to get this job. Or 4 months. That's still a long time though. And I know it takes people a lot longer than that. So I'm very grateful, of course. I'm not saying I'm not. But genuinely though, sometimes if you want to get where you're going, you're going to have to take a little risk, whether you like it or not, And I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do that, which is why they stay at their jobs, because it's convenient. It's because it's guaranteed paycheck. It's guaranteed everything. Well, not everything, but most things, right? And we humans, we don't like change, because once we get into the groove of something or in our mojo, we don't want to change that because we're comfortable. We're satisfied. we're basic in a sense, right? Because that's just how the human brain works. And so we just sit there and 20, 30, 40 years pass by and you're like, wow, what have I done? Nothing. You've done nothing. You've just worked for the man. Sure, they give you like raises here and there every 10, 15 years, but it's not a significant change, life-changing raise, right? Just enough to keep you there until you, like I said, die or retire. And then you look back in your life, you're like, wow, I really wasted all of my time doing nothing, working for somebody else who does not care about me, who doesn't want the best for me, who just wants my physical labor for 8, 9 hours a day, sometimes even more than that, depending on what job you do, for nothing in return, because you can't get time back. So just definitely keep that in thought when it comes to that job. And I know it's hard to stay disciplined and it's hard to stay motivated and stay, optimist and happy and content. Trust me, I get it. But sometimes, like I said, you have to take that risk, right? And just chase after your passion, or just chase after what you like doing or what you love doing. And it's okay if you don't know. It takes time to figure out what you really want to do with your life and how you want to spend it or where you want to spend it, So like, don't feel too pressured. And I'm not saying quit your job today. Definitely not saying that. So please, if you got rent due tomorrow, do not quit your job today. Let me just put that out there. Not saying that at all. Let's be strategic of how we do this, right? Let's make a goal. Let's make a plan before we even do any of that. I probably should have said that first, because I don't want nobody listening to this podcast and be like, oh, this guy so told me to quit my job because I don't like it. Didn't say that, so don't not take it the wrong way. But yes, definitely come up with a plan, purpose, and a goal before we quit this job. But yeah, back to the cycle of us being stuck at our jobs. It's kind of the way it works. I feel like, me personally, it's kind of strategized or built in that sense for us to keep us at the bottom, or to keep us working nonstop over and over and over and over and over. And like, there's nothing wrong with that in a sense. I mean, it is, but I mean, if you like it, then if you love it, then continue to do it. But I guarantee you 98% of people are not wanting to do that. And if they do want to do that, at least it's to their goal or to their purpose, right? So, but yeah, I feel like that it's kind of standardized that we do that to keep us, at least them below their foot in a sense, to keep us in our place. But we have to break that cycle. Sorry about that noise. Hopefully my audio is good. Hopefully you guys can hear me. But we need to break that cycle in order for you, right, to make that change, which leads to your work or your passion in a sense. And like I said before, it's something that you honor, you care about. You wake up thinking about it. You go to bed thinking about it. You eat thinking about it every day, or most days. You're thinking about that because it's your calling. It's a part of you. It's what drives you to get up out of bed in the morning, to support your family, to do the things that you do on a daily basis. It drives you to do that. And that's all we can ask for our short time on this planet, because our time is limited. We don't have much time on this planet. I mean, it may seem like it. I get it, especially young people. We may seem like, we have a lot of time, which yes, we do, right? But you have to think about it. It's not going to last forever, right? So we need to take advantage of our youth and strive to what we truly want to do. And I feel like a lot of kids nowadays are doing that, which I very applaud them for that. But back to tie into the work or passion, I feel like I said, many of us are afraid to do that because of the risk, or the failure that may come with that. And that's okay. Everything in life you're going to fail at. That's just a given. Suck it up, keep pushing, move on, right? But you can't let that tear you down, right? You got to have that faith, Yeah, it might be a little bit of financial, decrease or things of that nature, but money is money. You can't take it to the grave, So whatever that is, or whatever you want to do in your life, sorry for that noise again. People keep texting me. But whatever that is you want to do in your life, just do it legally, of course. I'm not telling you how to go kill somebody. Do not do that. If that is your passion, you need to go to a psych ward. But yeah, don't waste time, because you're not going to get this time back, right? Because you may have a goal of like, okay, I'm going to work this amount of hours or work at this specific job for, this amount of months. And when that due date comes by, you're still at that job. You're like, dang, I still didn't say, or I still didn't do what I said I was going to do, right? Because not everything you planned is not going to go your way. So you're going to have to be open to change, whether you change it yourself or life changes for you. And I guarantee you 90% of the time, life will definitely change your plan for you. So you just can't be set in stone on a specific plan, and when it doesn't work out, you'll disappoint yourself. But like I said, that's a whole nother topic that we can discuss later But if you truly want to make a meaningful impact to your life, to society, to yourself. You have to have discipline. And I know that I said that 20 times already, but you cannot go anywhere in your life without discipline. I believe Dwayne Johnson, said it best. You can't, get up, work 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, working for the man or working for, for somebody else, and not go home and work on your own goals, because they're stealing that time from you. They're stealing that ambition, that drive, that motivation, that eagerness, that curiosity. You're using it all in that job. And yes, I get it. You're drained after work. Trust me, I get it. But you still cannot go home and at least attempt to work on your own goals. I don't care if it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. I'm not saying you have to work 3 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours a day. If you want to, sure, that'd be great. That is awesome. You'll get the results faster. But at least put some time and effort into it every single day, because increments by increments, that adds up. But you have to work on it somehow. You got to get it somehow. If you truly want it, you got to get it. You got to be hungry. You got to be starving to get where you want to be, or to work on that passion, whatever that may be. Like I said before, I do get it. Not all jobs have that flexibility, especially like in the medical field, politics, blue collar workers, trade jobs, things of that nature. I get it. It's a very high demanding job. It's a lot of physical labor versus the typical 9-to-5 office job. I get it, but you got to find a way, and I'm not saying that to be rude or mean or to, just to be like that guy, but you have to make a way, because this world it's not going to be easy, doing your passion. It's not going to be easy at all, but at least you have that goal of, no matter what I have to do, I will complete this by any means necessary, because it's part of me. It's who I am. And I will be damned if I'm 6 feet on the ground and nobody knows who I am, or nobody knows what I've done. And don't get me wrong, 200 years from now, none of us will know. None of those people will know that we existed, unless you just made a significant impact, like, George Washington or Martin Luther King or Abraham Lincoln or George Washington Carver, Michael Jackson, things of that people. But ideally, no one's going to know what you did. And that's okay. But you also don't want to go 6 feet on the ground knowing that I didn't leave a legacy. I didn't leave anything behind, or at least for 100 years to come, or to make a change, or to start a change. Maybe whatever you did started a change and just changed humanity for the greater of the good. We don't know. And you wouldn't know if you didn't do that. So definitely do not let this job you have now. And if you love your job right now, if this is your passion, you should not be listening to this, because you're already where you're at. And I'm proud of you, because you did that, and you're doing what you love. So props to you. Kudos to you. Keep doing it. And I want you to keep going, because I believe in you. But for those that do not like their jobs, which is most of corporate America, take my advice. I'm not saying you have to take every little bit of piece of it, but whatever resonates to you the most, I would say do that. Listen to that, and you'll find a little change, and you'll find, the results. So it takes time, of course. I'm not saying you're going to see results tomorrow, but just take that risk, or take 30 minutes a day to focus on whatever you love to do. Do some networking, socialize. I get it. We don't like talking to people. Some of us do, some of us don't. But if you want to get where you got to go, you got to talk to people, network. That is the number one thing we need to do, is network. That'll change everything. Most things, of course. Not I want to say everything, but most things. But I do apologize. I know it kind of got a little bit off topic, but those are just my 2 cents of the difference between your 9-to-5 versus your passion or your work. I hope you, young men and women, and older men and women, everyone basically, can learn from this, grow from this, and utilize this in your life, whatever that may be. And just know that you do you. If you're doing the best you can, that's all you can ask for. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of financial insecurity, even though money plays a huge part. I get it. But you can't let that stop you, because that'll stop you for the rest of your life. And have some self-belief, because without that, there's nothing. Because if you don't believe in your goal or your work or your passion, nobody else will. So you got to be the first to back up your goal. So definitely take that in consideration. Like I said, hopefully you take a little bit from its advice. I didn't want to keep the podcast too long, of course, to make it 3 hours, though I could have. But people nowadays have short attention spans. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, let me know. Comment, give me your thoughts. I would love to know. I am well at taking constructive criticism. If I wasn't, I would have a podcast in the first place. But yeah, so just remain humble, remain hopeful. Stay ambitious, stay courageous, be optimistic. And if you guys want to join the podcast, just shoot me an email, send a message on Instagram, my DM. There's plenty of ways to contact me. Not give you my number though. I'm not gonna put that on blast. But yeah, just let me know. But in the meantime, like I said, remain humble, remain hopeful, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.